Okay, whenever you're ready.
Okay, over the years there has been new technology coming out like self-driving cars and smart glasses. One new technology that is hitting the hospitals everywhere is the robot. Today I want to describe to you the technological advances of robots in hospitals. I have done a lot of research on these robots because I think they're like a new concept and something that I'm not really familiar with, so I did a lot of research on it. First, I would like to talk about vital robots and surgical robots. Then I will talk about the future plans for them, and then I will talk about the views of the robots. So first, the vital robot. The vital robots roam around the hospitals taking blood pressure, heart rate, temperature, and SpO2 so that the nurses don't have to. According to an article by Amber Bowman, the robot kiosk called the WellPoint system can measure a patient's weight, pulse, and pulse oximetry 4 minutes faster than a human can, and will automatically update digital medical records once the tests have been performed. This machine can also guide patients through regular intake questions that are asked upon admission, and so that it will be easier on the nurses. So this.
Turn the thing back on.
She's pushing the wrong button.
Oh, you can do that.
So this is two pictures of vital robots. This one is called the Ped, I think it's called, and it's just it takes blood pressure mostly, but it's not used as much as this one, which is the WellPoint system, which I talked about earlier. This was in a video of a doctor testing out the intake questions that they were asking, and then this is the thing where the patient touches the screen to answer the question. Some robots will even test blood for sugar levels and iron levels so that the nurses don't have to. This was a guy's arm right here, and the robot was putting in the needle to test the blood. Next, I will talk about surgical robots. Most current surgical robots are manned by a couple of people. The surgeon is sitting down using a camera and a joystick kind of thing for the mechanical arms. And an anesthesiologist stands by the patient, making sure they are still asleep and making sure that they don't need any more medication to keep them asleep. This is pictures of the Da Vinci, which is popular robotic surgery robot. So this is when it was in testing, it was just a design that they did. And then that was during a test surgery in New York hospital, and they were doing a gallbladder surgery removal. According to an article by Mayo Clinic, the advantages of robotic surgery are fewer complications, less pain and blood loss, quicker recovery, and they make smaller incisions, so there's smaller scars. Next, I will talk about the future of hospital robots. Research and programming is being done on numerous medical robots. Programmers want to make it so that the robot in a surgery does the entire surgery, but that there is only one surgeon standing by it to make sure nothing goes wrong, because everybody's body's different, so the robot can't know that. The vital robot programming is also being done to make it faster and more efficient. They want it to be done in a couple of seconds, which I don't know if that's possible, but. And then there are some robots in planning stage that is way of a courier, they're bringing medical supplies or goods and foods to the patients in the hospital so that nurses can focus on other things. Another robot that is in the programming stage is a psychologist kind of robot, which is just it just talks to the patient, I guess, and will sympathize with it, which to me is a weird concept, because why would a robot be able to sympathize like a human? But anyway, lastly, I'll talk about the opposing views of this medical robot and the advantages. People are saying that with robots in hospitals, it will eventually lead to doctorless hospitals, which is going along with the overall view of robots, that they're taking jobs from people, not just in the medical field, but in factories and stuff. Some people are saying that the cost of manufacturing these robots is not worth it. According to an article by Verdict Hospital, with a price tag of nearly $1 million, cost effectiveness has always been a concern. So this is a chart, can you see it, of robotic surgery compared to regular conventional surgery prices, which is just with the hands. So all these 3 types of surgeries listed, the robotic surgery costs more to do, a couple of $1,000s more. So some advantages of these robots, though, is that they are more efficient and have less complications, as said before. They are allowing these surgeons to be able to do double the amount of surgeries in a shift because of the faster time that the robotic surgery allows. The nurses also don't have to focus more on vitals, because I know some people know that nurses in hospital have to take the vitals, I think, every 2 hours. And so they don't have to do that with these robot vital signs. So although we don't have a lot of flying cars and we do have robots that are making people's jobs easier, after reviewing the different robots and future plans for them, hopefully you'll see that technology is advancing everywhere and even in hospitals. Yeah. I was gonna say that. I was gonna say like the surgery on a grave. So like,
that would have been so iconic.
And on a key too, I guess.
Just slice the skin open.
All right, well, the attention device is fine. You identify your topic clearly. There's a reasonable preview. I think you're doing a good job on the content, although I don't hear any source citations, so you need to be a little bit more consistent about that. The presentation issues, that's kind of what we're focusing on here. You stand to the one side the whole time. That's a little bit awkward. I think you never kind of engage the audience with the body movements. It's only about operating the visuals that causes you to kind of change your orientation ever during the presentation. So that feels a little bit stiff. It's not quite as relaxed as it could be. Your facial expression, on the other hand, is very animated. You do a good job looking at the audience for the most part. I didn't notice anything that was problematic, except occasionally you had to look at your notes. The notes do become a little bit of a limitation on your ability to engage in gesturing because they are in your hands the whole time. But again, it wasn't a huge limitation. Usually there was some gesture that followed the points that you're making. And when you're indicating things on the screen, I think you do a pretty good job on that. Your voice, I think you could project a little bit more. I think you need to have a little bit more variety in the volume of your voice, except right at the end when you sort of drop off with your voice. It all is being delivered at the same volume, and I think you could perhaps create a little bit more interest with your voice by changing that sort of thing. I would be a little careful, though, about the energy level. I think you have a good energy level, but the way it's all coming out is in the pacing. You are a little quick when you're speaking, even with, sometimes it sounds like you're reading, even though you're not reading, because you're rushing through your sentences a bit, and you need to kind of talk to us a little bit more. You're so focused on the content that I don't know that you even notice that there's an audience in front. If I'm just listening to you, it doesn't sound like that. You do look up, and the visual, I think, helps that a little bit, but the vocal performance, I think, really seems to suggest that you are just concentrating on what the content is and moving through that without necessarily adjusting a little bit for the audience. Everything is timed reasonably well. I thought the visuals are integrated into the speech pretty clearly. Like I said, the content was solid except for the absence of source citations. Otherwise, you're doing a very solid job on things. Thank you.